We start talking about greatest points all the time. Is Steph not a point?
To me, no.
What is he?
What he's great at is making sure that he's moving, but he also understands how to use screens and set his defender up. So let's demonstrate a little. You want to do a demo?
Start including Steph Curry in the greatest of all time?
Technically, yes. Personally, no.
He destroyed me. Those were the words echoing through basketball podcasts, interviews, and locker rooms for over a decade. But Stephen Curry stayed silent. The baby-faced assassin just kept shooting, kept smiling, and kept winning. Until now. In his 2025 memoir, Shot Ready, Curry finally did what fans had been begging him to do for years. He named names. 5 NBA legends who publicly disrespected him, doubted him, and tried to erase him from history. Mario Chalmers, Tracy McGrady, Iman Shumpert, Isaiah Thomas, Shaquille O'Neal. These aren't just random critics throwing shade on Twitter. These are former champions, Hall of Famers, and basketball royalty who spent years moving the goalpost every time Curry cleared them. And now, for the first time ever, Curry is checking the receipts. If you're as hyped about this revelation as we are, smash that like button right now, and let's dive into the most dramatic receipts in NBA history. To understand why these 5 legends went after Curry so hard, you need to understand what he represents. For generations, NBA greatness meant one thing: size, power, and physical dominance. Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James. These were the guys who defined what it meant to be great. Then came Stephen Curry, a skinny 6'2" guard with bad ankles who changed everything. He didn't play above the rim. He didn't bully defenders in the post. He shot from distances that made coaches furious and made defenders look foolish. Curry didn't just break records, he broke the entire definition of what basketball greatness could be. And that terrified the old guard. Because when Curry became the most dominant player in the league, it meant everything they built their legacies on was suddenly outdated. The 5 legends we're about to discuss aren't just haters, they're avatars for dying archetypes, each one desperately trying to protect their era's definition of greatness from the three-point revolution that was making them irrelevant in real time. Let's start with Mario Chalmers and what Curry calls the little brother syndrome. In September 2025, Chalmers appeared on Iman Shumpert's podcast No Limit and was asked to name his Mount Rushmore of point guards. That's the 4 greatest point guards ever to play the game. Chalmers' list was Magic Johnson, Chris Paul, John Stockton, and Jason Kidd. Notice anyone missing? Chalmers deliberately excluded Stephen Curry, a 2-time MVP and a 4-time champion who revolutionized the entire position. But it gets worse. Chalmers explained his reasoning by drawing a hard line between scoring and playing real point guard. He said that Magic, CP3, Stockton, and Kidd were real point guards because they distributed the ball and ran the offense the traditional way. Then he looked straight into the camera and said, "Steph, you beat me that year. You cut." That line is everything you need to know about Chalmers' mindset. He's acknowledging that Curry defeated him when the Warriors destroyed the Heat dynasty, but he's trying to claim a moral victory by controlling the definition of what a point guard should be. Chalmers spent his career as a game manager for LeBron James. His job was to play defense, hit open shots, and distribute the ball. That's the only version of point guard he understands. But Curry didn't fit that mold. Curry is the offense. His gravity warps entire defensive schemes before he even touches the ball. He creates open shots for teammates by existing on the court. Chalmers can't accept that because accepting it would mean admitting his entire era was playing an outdated style of basketball. In Shot Ready, Curry talks about how players from the immediately preceding era harbor the deepest resentment because they watched their own obsolescence happen in real time. The Miami Heatless thought they were the pinnacle of modern basketball. Then the Warriors came through and eclipsed everything they accomplished with a 73-win season and an offensive revolution that changed the sport forever. Chalmers is trying to gatekeep the point guard position because it's the only way he can pretend. The old way still matters. It's classic insecurity masked as tradition. Next up is Tracy McGrady and his obsession with the carry job myth. Throughout 2024 and 2025, T-Mac has been one of Curry's most vocal critics. He consistently stated in interviews that he cannot place Stephen Curry in his top 5 or even top 10 players of all time. Why? Because according to McGrady, Curry can't carry a team by himself. McGrady's whole argument is built on the idea that true greatness means putting up huge numbers on a bad team through pure individual will. He famously used a hypothetical to make his point. McGrady said, imagine Curry playing for a dysfunctional franchise like the Charlotte Hornets. Would we still be talking about Steph Curry as a top 10 player of all time? McGrady's answer was no, it's just luck, man. This reveals everything about McGrady's worldview. He spent the prime of his career putting up massive statistics on mediocre Orlando Magic teams that never advanced deep in the playoffs. To McGrady, those stats prove he was a hero who just needed help. But when Curry plays with great teammates like Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Kevin Durant, McGrady calls it a luxury that hides Curry's true value. It's a stunning double standard. McGrady sees himself as a tragic hero who carried bad teams, but he sees Curry as a system player who got lucky. Here's the problem with McGrady's argument. The 2020-2021 NBA season, Klay Thompson was injured, the Warriors roster was filled with G League talent and inexperienced rookies, and Curry averaged 32 points per game on 48, 42, 91 shooting splits and won the scoring title. He faced box-and-one defenses every single night and still dragged a lottery-level team to the brink of the playoffs. They lost in the play-in tournament, which for McGrady validates his entire argument. But let's compare. In 2002-03, McGrady averaged 32.1 points per game on a low-talent Orlando team. They went 42-40 and lost in the first round of the playoffs. Curry in 2021 averaged 32.0 points per game with a 65.5% true shooting percentage compared to McGrady's 56.4%. Both had terrible rosters. Both failed to advance. McGrady views his own failure as a tragedy of circumstance, but he views Curry's failure as proof that Curry can't carry a team. In Shot Ready, Curry addresses this head-on. He argues that the mark of a leader isn't just putting up stats on a losing team. It's building the culture and system that prevents your team from becoming the Hornets in the first place. McGrady's version of luck ignores the decade of unselfish play, ball movement, and winning culture that Curry created. The so-called luck was built through work. But McGrady refuses to see it because admitting that would mean his own hero ball era was the wrong way to play basketball. Then there's Iman Shumpert, the defender who values aesthetics over results. In late 2025, Shumpert made headlines by excluding Curry from his hypothetical all-time starting lineup. When choosing between LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and Curry, Shumpert didn't hesitate. He said, "We're starting Bron, I ain't gonna lie." Then he looked at the camera and said, "Steph, you beat me that year. You cut. Sound familiar?" It's the same line Chalmers used. Acknowledge the loss but claim a moral victory by rejecting Curry's style of play. But Shumpert's most revealing comment came during a conversation with Shaquille O'Neal. When asked if Curry belongs in the GOAT conversation, Shumpert said, "Technically, yes, personally, no. That split is everything." Technically, Shumpert admits the stats are undeniable. 4 rings, 2 MVPs, the greatest shooter in history, a complete revolution of how basketball is played. But personally, Shumpert can't reconcile Curry's joyful, mouthguard-chewing demeanor with the gladiatorial seriousness he associates with greatness. Shumpert is part of the hooper culture that values the bag, one-on-one isolation scoring, and physical intimidation. He wants his legends to look like warriors. Curry looks like he's having fun. Shumpert also pointed to Curry's defensive limitations. He mentioned how teams hunt Curry on switches as a disqualifier for the highest tier of greatness. Shumpert prefers the two-way players like Jordan and Kobe or the physically dominant players like Magic Johnson. But here's what Shumpert doesn't understand. In Shot Ready, Curry talks about the nature of fear in basketball. He distinguishes between physical terror, the kind imposed by LeBron or Shaq, and anxiety, the kind he imposes. Shumpert himself admitted on a podcast that guarding Curry is mentally exhausting. You have to be locked in. If you look away for a second, it's 3 points. Shumpert interprets this non-physical dominance as less real than the bruising battles he fought against other stars. But Curry's rebuttal is simple. Making an opponent exhausted without touching them is the ultimate form of dominance. Shumpert's personal rejection of Curry is just an attempt to recenter the game on physicality, the only domain where Shumpert and his archetype had any chance of competing. Curry destroyed that entire worldview, and Shumpert can't forgive him for it. Now let's talk about Isaiah Thomas, the gatekeeper who finally became a believer. For years, Thomas was one of Curry's most persistent critics. He was a key voice in the media alongside Charles Barkley, claiming that jump shooting teams could not win championships. This narrative lasted until the Warriors finally broke through in 2015. Thomas also frequently emphasized the physical brutality of the 1980s, implying that Curry's fragile ankles and slender frame would never have survived the Jordan Rules era. And like Chalmers, Thomas often praised Curry's shooting, while keeping him separate from the true distributors like himself and Magic Johnson. But something changed in January 2026. In a broadcast appearance that shocked the basketball world, Thomas offered unqualified praise for Stephen Curry. He said, "He is everything we always wanted our players to represent." Thomas argued that Curry's age approaching 38 was no longer a liability, but a testament to his supreme skill. He even broke down film on NBA TV to demonstrate how Curry uses screens to facilitate teammates, effectively dismantling the argument he himself had helped create. So why did Thomas pivot? The report identifies 3 reasons. First, longevity. Curry's ability to remain elite into his late 30s mirrors the endurance Thomas values. Second, the small guard fraternity. Thomas realized that as the historic standard bearer for small guards winning titles, Curry is his spiritual successor. By validating Curry, Thomas validates his own archetype. And third, irrefutable evidence. After the 2022 Finals MVP and sustained excellence through 2025, the jump shooting critique became factually unsustainable. Thomas is a shrewd analyst. He recognized that continuing to deny Curry's greatness would damage his own credibility. This moment is poetic justice. One of Curry's harshest critics finally had to concede. It's a reminder that even the most stubborn gatekeepers eventually have to open the gate when the evidence becomes overwhelming. And finally, we have Shaquille O'Neal and the moving goalposts. No relationship captures the friction of Curry's rise better than his dynamic with Shaq. Shaq views basketball through the lens of physics. Force equals mass times acceleration. To Shaq, dominance meant physically overpowering your opponent. Curry's dominance is based on a different physics: gravity and range. For the first decade of Curry's career, Shaq was a persistent skeptic. He refused to rank Curry as a dominant player because Curry lacked the physical imposition of a center. But what makes Shaq's criticism so infuriating is how the criteria kept changing. In Shot Ready, Curry explicitly uses the term moving goalposts to describe the ever-shifting standards used to deny his greatness. Let's walk through Shaq's timeline. From 2015 to 2016, it was the luck phase. Shaq attributed the Warriors' success to opponent injuries in a soft league. He argued a jump shooting team would be crushed by his 2001 Lakers. Then from 2017 to 2019, it became the super team phase. When Curry won with Kevin Durant, Shaq argued Curry wasn't the bus driver, the best player on the team. He deferred credit to Durant or LeBron James. Then from 2020 to 2021, it was the resume phase. Shaq questioned Curry's lack of a Finals MVP trophy, using it as the final barrier to entry into the top 10. But then 2022 happened. Curry dominated the Boston Celtics in the finals without Kevin Durant and won Finals MVP. Shaq publicly conceded in a viral moment. He admitted, "I used to hate on him, but he proved me wrong." In interviews promoting Shot Ready, Curry references Shaq's evolution as a case study in how the NBA establishment processes change. He writes, "The goalposts moved from can he shoot, to can he win, to can he win alone, to can he defend." Shaq's skepticism wasn't about me. It was about protecting the definition of dominance he built. By 2026, Shaq ranks Curry in his top 5, often placing him above traditional big men. It's the final victory of the skill era over the size era. Shaq fought harder than anyone to keep the old definition alive, but even he had to admit that Curry redefined what dominance means. So why did Curry finally decide to reveal all of this in Shot Ready? For 15 years, he maintained a polished, unbothered public persona, the baby-faced assassin who let his game speak. But the decision to name names, to call out Chalmers, McGrady, Shumpert, Thomas, and Shaq, marks a strategic shift in his late career narrative. By cataloging their disrespect, he validates the petty king persona he embraced in the 2020s. He's no longer turning the other cheek. He's checking the receipts. And Curry reveals exactly how he used each critique as fuel. Chalmers' pure point guard comments motivated Curry's assist-heavy performances in the 2025 season to prove he could play traditional point guard if he chose to. McGrady's carry comments fueled his 2021 scoring title run. Shumpert's soft comments motivated his improved defensive metrics and weight room dedication in the latter half of his career. Every insult became ammunition. Every dismissal became motivation. The polite assassin was keeping score the entire time. The friction between Stephen Curry and these 5 legends isn't just a collection of hot takes or social media drama. It's the sound of a sport evolving in real time. Mario Chalmers tried to hold the line for the traditional point guard. Tracy McGrady tried to defend the heroic isolation scorer. Iman Shumpert tried to validate the physical enforcer. Isaiah Thomas guarded the gate of the small man's struggle. Shaquille O'Neal defended the primacy of physical size. Stephen Curry defeated each of these archetypes, not just by winning championships, but by proving that a 6'2" guard who smiles, dances, and shoots from 35 feet can be the most dominant force in the history of the sport. His revelation in Shot Ready isn't about revenge. It's about closure and acknowledgement. It's about making sure the world knows that every step of his journey was contested by legends who couldn't accept that the game was changing. These 5 critics don't represent personal grudges. They represent the death of an era. And Curry didn't just survive their skepticism. He turned it into fuel that powered a revolution. Because when the game changed, it wasn't just Curry who won, it was basketball itself.